So if you felt betrayed after last week's episode of Seventh Time Loop, you are going to feel your faith restored with episode 6. Unfortunately, with that faith being restored, if you're like me, you're not too happy about what you're going to have to admit. Theodore wasn't as trash as we first thought. The kid has brother issues, but he wasn't as much of a little shit as I first thought him. I'm kind of angry that I have to compliment him for helping people of the slums. I still don't like his character design, but I was wrong about Theodore. The funny thing about this whole dynamic between Theodore and Arnold, this is her 7th loop. How many of those 6 times, with Arnold going crazy or bad shit happening, all of that probably, or at least a percentage of that, would have been avoided if brothers just talk things out. But they needed a woman in their life, and thank God she came in, because holy hell, ever since apparently Mom died, which they say Arnold killed her, which I still don't know what that means, but I guess we'll figure that out. Jesus, man. I'm a little shocked by this episode in a way. I'm not sure how people are going to respond to it. My gut says maybe there's going to be some pushback about the whole brother dynamic. I personally very much enjoyed it, but I kind of feel like this is the type of subject matter and kind of dialogue that maybe people won't vibe with. I don't know. I hope I'm proved wrong. But I found this to be a very shocking episode. Not in the way that, the maid in that guard, I said it last week. I thought they were blackmailed. And it went in a little bit of a different direction, but it went where I expected. The shocking thing is that whole brotherly dynamic and how both just didn't think they deserved the world and were trying to give it to... And I'm like, thank God they have a woman in their life. I have a full live reaction to today's wonderful episode of 7th Time Loop over on my Patreon. If you want to see my full and cut thoughts as we watch today's episode, it's over there if you're interested. So, basically, if you really want to sum down this whole dynamic, which, honestly, god damn it, they needed to talk a lot sooner, and probably if Mom was still around, they might have already done that. So Arnold pretty much has never tried to be a big brother to Theodore, and Theodore has always craved big bro's attention. He pretty much has a brocon issue at this point, like, in a lot of ways. But the idea that pretty much Theodore looks at Arnold as deserving of everything he's going to get. That he is a great person, he's going to be a great ruler, but he looks at Arnold as someone who's basically squishing and stomping on all of his potential, and it seems like he wants to give it to Theodore. And Theodore, being apparently a pretty nice guy at the end of the day, always chasing after his brother's approval, never getting it, he helps the people of the slums. Up until very recently in this loop right here, he was helping the people of the slums. And those were the people he focused on the most. So why did he stop the support? Why was he doing all this? He was basically trying to paint himself as a criminal to either get punished, have his title revoked, or he would just die. Whatever happened would be good. He was literally so attention deprived that being killed by his brother would feel like a hug at that point, which is mess beyond belief. But most importantly, he wouldn't be able to give Theodore any power in the future because of this. And that's why he even tried to jump. And for someone like Arnold, it's interesting how our girl caught on to something which I didn't really catch on to myself. The idea of how he kind of proposed the idea of her being his wife, and the idea that pretty much everything that he does almost feels like he's trying to self-implode things. And when you rewind 2 weeks back, give or take, with the whole exchange with that one guard or knight, whatever it was, he's talking about how, like, hey, why are we, supporting the general peasants when, the lords of the lands aren't going to be very happy? And then we had the whole tax exchange thing because of our girl. That's a situation, when you think about it in hindsight, everything he does, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care if it implodes in his face and he doesn't get to be king or this or that. Like, it feels like he doesn't think he deserves power or authority, but very similar to Theodore, likes and looks after the common people, just with no care about what happens to him in the long term. Because we now have our girl who can talk some sense into these dumbasses, we are getting them to open up and realize that maybe brothers can be brothers, and most importantly, our boy Arnold is worthy of the throne. So it's very interesting when you start to consider the little bits of information we have about who he was as a ruler in her previous lives, but most importantly, how we're currently seeing him act here, because in a lot of ways, everything I've seen up to this point has made him seem like a people person. The only thing that really felt iffy was that he's not very good at keeping nobility on his side, which even though I think most nobility is not going to be great in general, you need their monies to fund the army to then protect the general people, and that's obviously where our girl comes in. But it's very interesting to see because, the only person we know of who knows of Arnold's scar is Reshape, right? Like, I don't think anyone else knows. So when he takes off his coat to give it to her, how shocked he is in that moment. It's just those little moments that really make the character writing pop. And I think the reason I think there could be some pushback among anime watchers with this episode is if you kind of like take a step back and look at how Theodore was acting and how, like, you know, attention deprived he was and how he was willing to toss his life away and how easily he brushes all that off. I could see people not really vibing with that, but then when you take a consideration of, like, mom wasn't around, mom's dead apparently, we still, like I said, we still don't know exactly what happened there. Dad, hell if I know, and basically your big brother who you worship, which there's usually that sibling dynamic, one sibling, you know, really puts the other on a pedestal and the other sibling has no interest. Throw that into a royal setting, it's gonna probably cloud, especially this weird Theodore kid who half looks like an 18-year-old and half looks like a 9-year-old. I still don't understand his character design, and you know, I think deep down I'm always going to be a Theodore hater in spirit, even though now I know he's actually not a bad dude. I can't change and I refuse to change. My point stands. I personally vibe with this. It didn't go in the direction I thought. The direction I thought was Theodore's a little prick and he blackmailed these two, and these two potentially were, you know, exchanging some information. Turns out she immediately called it out, said let's go. And yeah, I mean, as I said last week, you know, Theodore thinks she's trapped with him, but really, Theodore's trapped with her. Like you screwed as she wants. She picked that lock, she beat up all the guards, and our boy was just like, nah, she's fine, she's her, she'll be okay. And honestly, man, the midway point, I thought we were about to break off this marriage. He was giving some glares. I thought he was about to be toxic. And then by the end of the episode, we don't even have to reinstate the no touching rule. How is this show so good, man? I don't know, but I really vibe with the writing of this episode. I don't know where we go from here because, I mean, at the very least, one of the probably the most toxic elements of Arnold's life has now been dissolved and brothers can talk. And hell, you know, the idea of don't talk to him has turned into thank you for protecting my little brother. And I'm like I said, thank God they have a woman in their life. So many guys, we get up our own ass, man, and we just need, we need a goddamn woman to just tell us to fucking think things through. And thank God for her, because that's what they needed. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode, because I was definitely wrong about Theodore. I'm still going to be a Theodore hater deep down inside, but goddamn it, the kid's actually pretty nice. He just was broken as hell, but I guess a lack of love does that to a boy. Let me know your feelings down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we have Omar, Jay Vorty, Daniel Koskol, Cephalin Koda, Connor Brown, and GR Vallis. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.